dear students. Good morning to all. Welcome back to Economic Online class. We were discussing Chapter 7, Indian Economy, Employment, Growth, Informalization and other issues. So in the last session, we studied about worker population ratio, contribution of different sectors to employment. Today, we will focus on informalization of Indian workforce and also unemployment. So let us first discuss about informalization of Indian workforce. On the basis of the conditions of workforce or the job securities of workforce, the Indian workforce are divided into formal or organized sector and also informal or unorganized sector. So, formal sector. All the public sector establishment and those private sector establishment which employ 10 hired worker or more are called formal sector. So those who work in such establishment are called formal workers. So what is the formal sectors? All the public sector enterprises and also private sector establishment which employ 10 hired workers or more are called formal sector. So public sector is the major employer in formal sector. Then what about the features of formal sector works? What are the work conditions in formal sectors? So the worker get regular income in formal sector. They enjoy social security benefits like maternity benefit, provident fund, gratuity and pension. So the formal worker earn more than those in the informal sector. The income is very higher than that of informal sector worker. The government protect them through labor laws. Then they form trade unions and bargains with the employer for better wage and other social security measures. Then informal sector or otherwise known as unorganized sector. It includes millions of farmers, agricultural laborers, owners of small enterprises and self-employed who do not have any hired worker. And also construction workers and head load workers are unorganized workers. What are the features of informal sectors? So informal sector do not get regular income, do not have protection from the government. There is law but it not following. Then the worker are dismissed without any compensations. Then workers of this sector mainly lives in slum areas. Normally, we expect that as the economy will grow, more and more worker would become formal sector worker. But what happened in India? In India, the percentage of workforce employed in formal sector is about 6% only. The rest, that means the 94% are in informal sector. Okay. So out of 30 million formal sector worker, only 6 million, that is only about 21% are women. In the informal sector, male workers account for 69% of the workforce. Then the effort of International Labour Organization, that is ILO, Government of India has initiated the modernization of informal sectors and provision of social security measures to informal sector workers. Let us look at what happened in Ahmedabad due to this informalization of employment. So Ahmedabad is a prosperous city with its wealth based on the produce of more than 60 textiles mills with a labor force of 1,50,000 workers employed in these textiles mills. These workers had over the course of the century acquired a certain degree of income security. They had secured job with a living wage. They were covered by social security scheme protecting their health and old age. They had a strong trade union which not only represented them in dispute but also ran activities for the welfare of workers and their families. In the early 1980s, textile mills all over the country began to close down. In some places such as Mumbai, the mills closed rapidly. In Ahmedabad, the process of closure was long drawn out, spread over 10 years. Over this period, approximately over 80,000 permanent workers and over 50,000 non-permanent workers lost their job and were driven to the informal sector. So, the city experienced an economic recession and public disturbance, especially communal rights, and whole class of workers was thrown back from the middle class into the informal sector, into poverty. There was this widespread alcoholism and suicides. Children were withdrawn from school and sent to works. So this is the effect of informalization in Ahmedabad. Then we have already discussed about the casualizations. Is there any difference between casualization and informalization of employment? What is casualization? It refers to a situation when the percentage of casually hired worker in the total workforce tend to rise over time. That means shift of workforce from self-employed and regular salaried worker into casual worker. That is known as casualization. Then what about informalization? It refers to a situation when people tend to find employment more in informal sector of the economy and less in formal sector of the economy. That is known as informalization. This is the main difference between casualization and informalization. Next, we are moving on to the topic unemployment. In every section of society, there will be a large number of unemployed persons. It is a situation which all those who, owing to lack of work, are not working but either seek work through employment exchange, intermediaries, friends or relatives, or by making application to prospective employers or express their willingness or availability for work under the prevailing condition of work and remuneration. Thus, unemployment can be defined as unemployment refers to a situation where all able and willing persons may not find jobs or activities to provide them with means of living. This situation is known as unemployment. Who are willing to work but they didn't get job opportunities. That situation is known as unemployment. There are a variety of ways by which an unemployed person is identified. As per the view of some economists, an unemployed person is one who is not able to get employment of even 1 hour in half a day. The person who didn't get 1 hour work in half a day is termed as unemployed persons. Okay. Then one can get the data of unemployed persons through these sources. So the sources of data on unemployment. So first one, report of Census of India. So we can get the data related to unemployment in a country from reports of Census of India. Then NSSOs. NSSO means National Sample Survey Organizations. Their reports of employment and unemployment situations. From also this we can get the data or source. We can get the information about the unemployment. Then also from Directorate General of Employment and Training data of registration with Employment Exchange. So all these are the sources of data on unemployment and also employment. In India, there are different types of unemployment. So we have different types of unemployment. First one, open unemployment. It refers to that situation wherein the worker is willing to work and has the necessary ability to work, yet he does not get work and remain unemployed for full time. So that is known as open unemployment. If a person is willing to work and has the ability to work, he has willingness and also ability to work but does not get the work. This situation is called open unemployment. Then seasonal unemployment. So it refers to a situation where a number of a person are not able to find a job in a particular season. It occurs in the case of agricultural workers because agriculture is a seasonal activity. So the person who worked in agriculture sector mainly faces the problem of seasonal unemployment. Then the next one, that is most important unemployment in India, that is disguised unemployment. It exists when marginal physical productivity of labor is 0 or sometimes it becomes negative. Okay, that is known as disguised unemployment. For example, suppose a farmer has 4 acres of land and he actually need only 2 workers and himself to carry out various operations on his farm in a year. But if he employ 5 workers and his family members such as his wife and children, this situation is known as disguised unemployment. Okay. So disguised unemployment means employment of persons in a work that not required that much persons. That is known as disguised unemployment. The important features of disguised unemployment are marginal physical productivity of labor is 0. Okay. There is disguised unemployment among wage earners. That means disguised unemployment is invisible. Visibly all are working. But what happened there? Productivity is 0. So disguised unemployment is invisible. So disguised unemployment is a kind of unemployment in which there are people who are visibly employed but are actually unemployed. Then what are the causes of unemployment in India? First one, slow economic growth. In Indian economy, the rate of economic growth is very slow. This slow growth rate fails to provide enough employment opportunity to the rising population. The supply of labor is much more than the available employment opportunity. So it is the first reason, slow economic growth. Then second one, rapid growth of population. So constant increase in population has been a main problem of India. It is one of the main causes of unemployment. The number of unemployed has actually increased instead of decreasing during the planned period. Then faulty employment planning. The 5-year plans in India have not been designed for employment generation. A frontal attack to solve the problem of unemployment is missing. It was thought that economic growth will take care of unemployment problem also. So the faulty employment planning is also leads to unemployment in India. Then lack of financial resources. The expansion and diversification program of agriculture and small scale industries have suffered because of lack of financial resources. This has been accompanied by increasing government control of economic activities. All this leads to unemployment, increase in the unemployment in India. So the next topic is government and employment generation. So what all programs and schemes were introduced by Government of India for the generation of employment. So since independence, the union and state government have played an important role in generation of employment or creating opportunity for employment generation. Their effort can be categorized into 2, that are direct employment and indirect employment. Direct employment. Here the government employs people in various departments for administrative purpose. It also runs industries. Government also runs industries, hotels and transport companies, and hence provide employment opportunity, then employment directly to workers through UPSC, PSC, etc. Then the second one, indirect employment. It can be understood as when output of goods and services from government enterprises increases, then the private enterprises which receive now materials from government enterprises will also raise their output and hence increase the number of employment opportunity in the economy. This is the indirect generation of employment opportunity by the government initiative in the economy. So, these are the effort of government, direct and indirect intervention of government in employment generation. Then in chapter 4, we have discussed about various poverty alleviation programs through employment generations. So, for example, in 2005, the government of India had passed an act in Parliament known as National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. It promises 100 days of guaranteed wage employment to all rural households and who volunteer to do unskilled manual work. This scheme is one of the important measures adopted by government to generate employment for those who are in need of job in rural area. Apart from this, we had studied about various other schemes like Rural Employment Generation Program, Prime Minister's Rozgar Yojana, Swarna Jayanti Sahari Rozgar Yojana, and also other poverty alleviation program is also known as employment generation programs. So these programs aim at providing not only employment but also services in areas such as primary health, primary education, rural drinking water, nutrition, assistance for people to buy income and employment generating assets, employment development of community assets by generating wage employment, construction of houses and sanitation, assistance for constructing houses, then laying for rural roads, development of wasteland, degraded or degraded land, etc. also come under these programs. So about this program we had studied elaborately in previous class or in chapter 4. So you have to study, you have to connect all these programs with employment generating programs. Okay. So children, with this topic our 7th chapter get finished. So in this chapter we have studied about worker and employment. So what is a worker? All those who are engaged in economic activities is known as worker, and participation of worker force in a workers in a work is known as employment. Then also we had studied about participation of people in employment with the help of worker population ratio. So what is worker population ratio? The total number of workforce divided by total population into 100 is the work population ratio. With the help of work population ratio, we can understand the participation rate of people in a employment. So in India, more people are employed in rural area than urban area. Then also we had studied about different types of employment, then growth and structural changes in employment, then informalization of Indian workforce, that means increasing the number of people working in informal sector, that is informalization of Indian workforce, then the unemployment, the situation of not getting jobs, that is unemployment, and we have already studied about employment generation programs. So children, it is an important chapter. You have to study this chapter very well. Then don't forget to watch the URL attached with this video, attend the test paper and download your notes, study it well. See you in the next class with a new chapter. Until then, bye.